Hi, thanks so much for joining me on the Listen Up Girl podcast, your daily LGBTQ plus news podcast. My name is Zach Randall-Friedman, and today is Wednesday, June the 10th, 2026, and we are on day 10 of Pride Month. And today's lineup takes us around the world and back home again. Today, the 2026 World Cup is putting two of the most dangerous countries on earth for queer people on the same field and calling it a Pride match. Budapest is about to march in the open for the first time in years. A Boston Pride event is drawing national attention and conservative outrage. A World Cup champion finally tells her own story. And a new comedy series is betting that queer humor about afterlife is actually what we all need right now. So let's start off with a World Pride Cup called Pride Match between Egypt and Iran. We start with one of the strangest, most uncomfortable stories of this Pride season, and it's coming straight out of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Organizers in Seattle, one of the North America's host cities, designated a match at Lumen Field on June 26 as an official Pride match, a fixture built around celebrating the LGBTQ plus community. That plan was put into place before the teams were even drawn. And then the draw happened. The match that landed on that date, the Group G meeting between Egypt and Iran. Let that set for a second. A Pride match between two countries where being who you are can get you killed. In Iran, the maximum punishment for same-sex relations is the death penalty. In Egypt, so-called morality laws are used over and over again to arrest, surveil, and silence queer people. So now the question facing organizers is what a Pride match even means and when two teams represent governments that criminalize our existence. Some see it as a grotesque mismatch. Others see it as an opportunity, a chance to wave our flags, the loudest we ever have, where people on that field can come to places that would never allow it. Either way, on June 26th in Seattle, the contradiction will be impossible to ignore. It will be very interesting. Next, Budapest Pride will march in the open at last. Now a story after years of heartbreak, it is genuinely good news. Budapest Pride is happening legally for the first time in years. Hungarian police confirmed that they will not ban this year's march scheduled for June 27th. This is a complete reversal of the crackdown we lived through under Viktor Orban, whose government had passed a law banning pride events and even authorized facial recognition technology to identify the people who marched. Last year, more than 100,000 people, by some counts up to 200,000, defied that ban and flooded the streets anyway, turning Budapest Pride into one of the largest protests Hungary had seen in over a decade. What changed? Politics changed. Orban's party lost. Peter Magyar's pro-European government took office this spring, and almost immediately the justification for banning Pride evaporated. The European Union, which has been withholding billions in funding over Hungary's rights record, has started releasing those funds, and the EU's own Equality Commissioner celebrated that Hungarians can now march, in her own words, without fear. It is a reminder of something we say on this show a lot. These rights are not permanent. They are not gifts. They are won, lost, and won back. Budapest just won theirs back, so congratulations. I hope you have an amazing time on June 27th. Next, right here in Boston's Trans Period Pride event draws national heat. So coming closer to home, and yes, this one is right in my backyard, Boston is hosting an event called Trans Period Pride on June 17th at a branch of the Boston Public Library. The premise is simple and frankly overdue. A space to talk openly about experiences transgender and non-binary people have with menstruation, a topic almost never gets discussed honestly. Organizers say attendees will be offered a catered meal and free period products. Predictably, the event became a target. Conservative outlets seized on it, and it's turned into a culture war headlined far beyond Boston. There's also been a spotlight on the fact that the city's Office of LGBTQ plus Advancement was allocated close to $1 million in funding this year. So here's my take. An event happening, trans people navigate a basic bodily reality in a public library with a free meal and supplies. That is exactly what inclusion looks like in practice, not in theory. The outrage isn't really about a library event. It's about the discomfort with trans people existing in public, with their needs named out loud. Boston is naming them, and good for you. I am so proud to be part of this city because every person deserves to be treated the same and to be part of the inclusivity of this whole community. So love you, Boston, and I love my trans brothers and sisters. Next, Ashlyn Harris tells her whole story. To some sports history now, a new documentary, Game Changers, the Ashlyn Harris story, has just premiered on the Roku channel. Ashlyn Harris is a two-time FIFA World Cup champion and a former goalkeeper for the U.S. women's national team, one of the most celebrated and most outspoken figures the sport has produced. The film traces her journey from childhood through her college and professional careers and to a post-retirement work as an advocate for LGBTQ+ rights and for women in sports. What makes this and land during Pride is that Harris has never been quiet about who she is. She built a career at the very top of her sport as an out queer woman, at the time that was still treated at risk. Now she's handing the full story over, the triumphs, the defeats on the field and off. For every young queer kid who's ever been told their identity and their ambition can't coexist, a film like this is the receipt that says otherwise. Amazing. Next, a queer comedy bets on the afterlife. So let's close the news out with something that actually brings joy. The LGBTQ+ streaming platform Revry is launching a brand new original comedy series called I'm Dead. It's a weekly 12-episode half-hour comedy, and the cast is a who's who of drag and queer performers. Names many of you will recognize from Drag Race Universe, including Selena Estides, Percy Rustinum, Casey Conley, Lady Bushra, and Marvel A. Rex, and Pressure K. A queer-led comedy about the afterlife might sound like an odd pitch, but there's something fitting about this month. So much of Pride is grief for people who've lost, for the elders who've never got to grow old, a show that lets queer performers be funny about death on a platform that's entirely for us. It's its own small act of defiance. Sometimes resistance looks like protest, sometimes it looks like laughing in the face of something that's supposed to scare us the most. Sounds pretty amazing. So that's our news for today on day 10 of Pride, from the World Cup contradiction to a Budapest comeback to a Boston library standing its ground. The through line today is visibility and what it costs and what it's worth. I'm Zach Randall-Friedman. Please be sure to leave this podcast a rating, because the more ratings I receive, the more people hear this podcast. Be sure to leave a comment. Take care of each other and stay informed. And I'll be back tomorrow with more LGBTQ+ news. Thank you for listening.